So this week, we're going to be taking all of the CSS that we know, and we are going to be using it in a little different way to create menus. So there aren't really any web-based readings for this. All the information you need is in the lecture demo. So we start with a little review of unordered lists because these are actually used as the basis for a lot of menus. And then we apply an unordered list to a navigation bar. So we've got our anchors in here with links. And then how do you convert that into something that looks like this? Okay, and so these are the steps. Remove the bullets, margins, and padding. Determine if it's vertical or horizontal. Convert the LIA selectors display to block if it's going to be vertical, or inline if you want it, horizontal. And then you've got to apply some styling and apply a hover effect. Okay, so this is the example. Okay, and this is what it looks like in the HTML. And then here's the CSS that was used. We do look a little bit at layouts because now that we're getting into menus, that does impact how the page is going to look. So very simple layout would be the navigation is vertical on the left and the content displays on the right. Okay, here's a little bit more complicated one with a header and footer. And I do have links so you can kind of see what this looks like outside of the lecture demo. And if you right click, you can view the paid source and you can actually see exactly how I did that. Okay, here's a vertical bar with a submenu. That's how I got that. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can use the nested tag technique in the CSS, which some people find confusing. I kind of like it because you can actually look in your HTML and you can see it, right? You've got a UL, another UL, and you might target the LI in there. So here's nav UL UL, so you know it's targeting this. Nav UL UL LI A, so now we know it's targeting this. Okay, so to me, I kind of like this because it's easy to see. Some people find it confusing. So there is another way that you can set up your CSS, and that is by using IDs. So you can create a menu ID and a submenu ID. Okay, and here is how it works. So with the menu and your UL, okay, you can format that. You can format the anchor under menu. And then you notice submenu is separate. You are going to be practicing both in the textbook assignment, so you can figure out which one you like better. The ID method does make your CSS a little cleaner, and it is independent of your HTML tags. So it is a little more flexible, but I think that most of you will have a preference for one or the other. So you will get to practice both. So we were looking at the vertical menus, and now we're looking at kind of the same thing, but it's a horizontal menu instead. And so we do one with the elements, and then we do another one with IDs. So you can see how to do it both ways. And we've just got this style just a little bit different. Here's a horizontal one with submenus. So how do you set that up? A little bit more work with the submenus because you have to actually hide the submenu when it first displays, and then you want it to display on the hover. So there's a little more work in the CSS for that. And then we get into animated menus and menu icons. So I know you guys have seen cool icons in menus. So how do you get those? You can use Font Awesome. There's Font Awesome 4 and 5. Font Awesome 5 has a lot more than Font Awesome 4. And there are free ones, but there are also ones that you have to pay for. If you're going to use Font Awesome 5, you have to register. Okay? But you don't have to pay. You can just use the free ones. Okay, so this is explaining that you have to have a free account in order to use Font Awesome 5. Here are some Font Awesome 4 icons. Here's one that I added to a button. Here's the code I used. And this is how you would go about creating a menu bar with those. So you can see I've got my link, my opening, anchor, and closing, and then in between is where I have that Font Awesome icon code. And you'll see that there's an opening and a closing icon, and then the class is how you are accessing the graphic. And you have to include their library in order to display those graphics. So up in the head section, it's really important that you pull in the correct Font Awesome library to display your icons. If you have the icon code in your page and you can't see the icons, you are pulling in the wrong library, or maybe you forgot to pull in the library altogether. Okay, so pulling in that library is super important. So here are the steps to create the icon bar. You can see I've got an icon bar class, I've got the anchors styled, and I've got the hover. And so here's how a vertical one looks. And then I've got the same thing for a horizontal one. And you guys are going to get practice with that as well. In addition to using Font Awesome, you can use actually HTML codes. And these are called HTML entities. And so there's quite a few HTML entities, but basically you're using HTML code to generate the symbols. And there are a whole bunch of them. So here's the code that's going to give you this little black sun. Here's the code that's going to give you the little clear sun with the sun rays. And there's a yin and a yang and a peace symbol. There's all sorts of symbols. And I do have links so you guys can see more. But I did do a navigation bar with those HTML entities just so you can see how that looks. And then here is the code I used for that. As far as animated navigation buttons, these actually look pretty cool. So these are the animated buttons. And if you remember when we used positioning when we're in the box model and we used some positioning to change the location of objects on our page, that is how you position these navigation buttons. And so you can see I'm using absolute positioning here, and I've got the left set at -80, which is why the button is kind of off the screen. And then when I'm hovering, you can see the left goes to 0. So that is how it kind of pops into the page. And then you can see for each button, I also had to adjust the top location so they did not overlap. So you will get practice using the Font Awesome icons, and you will also get practice using these animated buttons. And where you will get that practice is in the textbook assignment. So this is where you're going to get practice creating all these pretty cool and awesome menus. So what I've done is I actually gave you a bunch of pages, because obviously if you have, a menu system, you want to go between pages. So in this zipped file is your CSS, media, and all these web pages. And what your focus is going to be is creating the menu for these. Okay, and that's what the directions are telling you. And there is a video that walks you through this. Okay, and then you'll be taking that initial structure and you will be copying it. Okay, and you're going to basically rename the folder and call it Acme Vertical ID. So you're going to be taking that same structure of pages and you're going to be creating a menu using an ID, the IDs of, menu and submenu. So this will give you, a nice chance to compare using the HTML selectors over IDs, which one you like better. Then you're going to do a horizontal menu with a hidden submenu. And I've got a separate file for you to download here. Same structure. And you'll be doing a drop down on this one. Then I'm giving you a page that you're going to be saving, and you're going to be actually making drop downs on it. Okay, and you'll be adding, actually it has drop downs, excuse me. The drop downs are here. You're going to be adding an icon bar to the bottom. If you like the way this looks, you can right click, view the page source, and you can see exactly how I did it here. And you can see that I kind of used that nested method. This last one, you are going to be adding those little side buttons that animate. And so you're going to right click on this and download it. There is already some animation going on the bottom because I thought that was fun. That is also CSS3. So you can actually right click and see how that animation is done, but you are going to be adding the buttons to that. And then you'll be turning it in. For the lab assignment, you are going to be converting your assignment page into drop-down menus. So this textbook assignment is going to be like one menu section and the lab assignment is going to be another. And you want to be able to point to these different lessons and get the drop-downs. So it's an awful lot like this. Okay, so this could be like textbook assignment, then you'd have a separate one for the lab assignment. Okay, and I do have a video that kind of covers the changes that you need to make and walks you through this process. And I also have written instructions for you. You are going to add an icon navigation bar to the footer of your page as well. And so this is an example. I don't want you to copy and paste. I want you to do your own. So you can kind of use it as a template, but yours should not link to me. You should have link to your own things that you are interested in. If you have a LinkedIn, you can link to that. If you like YouTube in general, you can link to YouTube. You can link to GitHub. You can basically link to whatever you want, but it should be your own stuff here. Okay, and that's an example of what mine looked like. And then you are going to add links to the assignment page for your textbook exercises and also for the lab assignment. For the lab assignment, because you are changing the assignment page, you can link to the original assignment page and the original CSS. And that is the assignment. So if you do have any trouble with the assignment, please make sure you have it on the web. transfer everything, and then email me. And I can go take a look and I can help you. Have a great week, and I hope you have fun with this.